What makes the Sony FX3 II such a worthy upgrade isn't just speculation. Rather, multiple regulatory filings, leaks, and insider discussions strongly suggest that the Mark II model is in development, potentially arriving by late 2025. And if the rumors hold true, Sony seems determined to correct the FX3's biggest weaknesses, while introducing new features to extend the camera's relevance for years to come. But that raises a key question. Can Sony's upcoming FX3 II reclaim the throne for filmmakers and content creators? Or will it arrive too late in a field that's already advanced? FX3 II will likely stay true to the minimalist cage-free design that made the original so appealing to solo shooters. The first FX3 allowed filmmakers to mount accessories without an external cage, and it seems likely Sony will expand on this approach with more reinforced mounting points. Rumors suggest we might see an improvement in ergonomics, possibly with a sturdier, weather-sealed build, and tweaks to button placement. Another interesting design discussion revolves around cooling. While the FX3 used an internal fan to manage heat during long takes, insiders suggest Sony might refine this system or even explore a fanless cooling design for quieter performance, particularly valuable for documentary shooters who work in controlled sound environments. The articulating screen is also expected to evolve. Borrowing from newer alpha bodies, the FX3 II could introduce a fully flexible LCD that tilts, flips, and rotates forward without getting obstructed by the top handler cables. For run-and-gun users, this change would be subtle but incredibly practical. And then there's the matter of internal ND filters. Historically reserved for larger cinema bodies like the FX6 or Venice, this feature has been whispered about for the FX3 II. If Sony integrates a drop-in ND system inspired by the Venice Rialto or Tilta's thin module technology, it would be groundbreaking in a camera this small. Imagine being able to shoot with any lens without stacking filters on the front. For indie filmmakers, that's workflow changing. Sony's original FX3 built its reputation on low-light dominance, thanks to the 12.1 megapixel full-frame sensor shared with the Alpha 7S III. For the FX3 II, however, expectations are shifting. Many believe Sony will push to a 6K sensor, offering more detail and flexibility without jumping to 8K's heavy file sizes and heat issues. This move makes sense. 6K is increasingly considered the sweet spot for cinema cameras, striking a balance between resolution and practicality. Some whispers even mention 8K as a possibility, but Sony's real challenge will be to add resolution without compromising the sensitivity and clean shadows that made the FX3 beloved. Autofocus is another area where Sony is unlikely to disappoint. With its advancements in AI-driven subject tracking from cameras like the Alpha 1 and A9 III, the FX3 II should inherit smarter recognition algorithms, making it easier to lock onto faces, eyes, or even specific subjects in unpredictable shooting environments. This would especially benefit documentary filmmakers, wedding shooters, and solo creators who don't always have a focus puller on hand. There is also speculation about a global shutter sensor. If Sony makes this leap, rolling shutter distortion would become a thing of the past, an incredible benefit for fast action, sports, or drone cinematography. However, global shutters often come with trade-offs in dynamic range and low light sensitivity, so their inclusion remains speculative rather than guaranteed. Regardless, even without a global shutter, the FX3 II will likely see meaningful upgrades in readout speed, frame rates, and overall responsiveness. The two headline upgrades that most sources agree upon are open gate recording and internal RAW capture. Both were sorely missing from the first FX3, and both are now essential for a camera meant to lead Sony's compact cinema lineup. Open gate means the Sony FX3 II will record using the sensor's full 3:2 area, rather than just the cropped 16:9 or 17.9 modes. This is critical for today's multi-platform creators. One shot could be reframed for YouTube widescreen, TikTok vertical, or Instagram square, without resorting to upscaling or awkward digital zooms. For anyone shooting anamorphic lenses, open gate also means you're not wasting as much sensor area, which keeps that cinematic look intact. On the current FX3, shooting RAW requires an external recorder. Bulky, expensive, and counterintuitive for a camera marketed for mobility. Bringing RAW inside the body would streamline workflows dramatically, keeping rigs lightweight while delivering footage with maximum color latitude. For colorists and editors, this translates to smoother gradients, greater highlight recovery, and richer shadow detail. Another rumored addition is 32-bit float audio recording when paired with Sony's XLR top module. This would eliminate the need to constantly monitor audio levels in fast-moving environments. A sudden laugh, yell, or loud environment wouldn't clip the recording, saving countless takes in unpredictable conditions. And then there are the subtle but meaningful tweaks. In-camera false color exposure tools, more robust LUT integration for monitoring, and potentially even cinematic LUTs preloaded for direct S-Log3 workflows. Together, these features would push the FX3 beyond being a baby cinema camera into something that truly rivals bigger rigs in both flexibility and professionalism. Pricing rumors consistently point toward a range between $3,800 and $4,200, which would place the FX3 II slightly higher than its predecessor, but still well below Sony's larger cinema bodies. This positioning keeps it competitive against Panasonic's S1H line and Blackmagic's offerings, though the challenge will be whether Sony delivers enough to justify that increase when rivals already offer internal RAW and open gate today. As for release timing, multiple reports suggest a late 2025 launch, with an official announcement potentially toward the end of the year. The delay is both a blessing and a curse. On one hand, Sony has more time to refine its technology and ensure it doesn't ship half-baked. For those already invested in Sony E-mount lenses, the FX3 II will feel like a natural progression. But for someone starting fresh, the delay might make Panasonic or Blackmagic more attractive right now. The Sony FX3 II is shaping up to be more than just a mild refresh. It's looking like a strategic correction. Sony knows the FX3 was successful but incomplete, and the Mark II is their chance to bridge that gap. By adding open gate recording, internal RAW capture, and possibly new innovations like internal ND filters or 32-bit float audio, the FX3 II would no longer feel like a compromise, but rather a complete filmmaking package. The Mark II could easily dominate the compact cinema market for years. However, if delays persist, or the final feature set falls short, competitors could tempt filmmakers away, especially those not tied to Sony's ecosystem. So, what is your wish list for the upcoming Sony FX3 II? Share with us, and as always, thanks for watching.